Hi, this is George King back with Dancing with Delirium, my account of living with Alzheimer's disease. And if you remember last week, I mentioned that my neurologist had decided no longer to treat me with the drug Leqembi that I'd been taking that slows the progress of the disease in early stage Alzheimer's. I was able to speak with the neurologist, that is, last week, and he indeed confirmed that he didn't think it would be responsible to continue to treat me because he was concerned about interactions with the blood thinners that I'm taking. He agreed that he would resume the transfusions if I were able to get off the drug thinners. So now I'm investigating if that's going to be possible. So I'm talking to my cardiologists and my hematologist. Bet you don't have one of those. So in other news, this Friday I'm going to Columbus, Georgia to interview Dr. Jonathan Liss, the eminent researcher and physician who runs the Columbus Memory Center. I'm going to be using excerpts from the interview with Dr. Liss and many others for this YouTube channel that we're going to be starting in the next few weeks, which means the posts will be a little longer on YouTube and we'll have a greater variety of voices. In the meantime, I'm back on the dance floor. I would try a few moves, but I'm holding this phone. It's kind of, a bit of a problem. But, maybe next time. Hi, this is George King. Welcome back, or just welcome to Dancing with Delirium, my blog about living with Alzheimer's disease. And it's June, and if you hadn't noticed, June is Alzheimer's and Memory Awareness Month. How about that? So I decided to check in on my own memory and let you know how I'm doing. The difficulty I've had actually is separating out whether it's me or some other external factor. Therein lies the problem, and therein lies a certain measure of frustration, because if I can't, if I when I run into a problem, say I'm writing an email or writing something or working in a software program like Photoshop or Premiere, when I find something isn't working, or I can't get it to do what I'm hoping it will do, suddenly there's an additional factor. I mean, 2 years ago, I would have been ranting and raving and maybe calling Apple or whoever it might be to try and fix the problem. But these days, there is an additional possibility, and that's that I'm actually part of the problem here, that my cognitive impairment is actually creating this issue. And it's impossible to sort of sort this out, so it's actually very frustrating. To deal with this frustration, what I've done is to try to build a support network of friends, colleagues, professional acquaintances who have agreed to essentially to help out, and who are on the end of a phone call or an email, or will come by in person and sit next to me and try to figure out what's going on, what the problem is. And this has been enormously helpful, because if you just bash your head against the wall, well, eventually either your head or the wall is going to give in. And I've also decided to find a counselor, to find somebody who has skills in dealing with these kinds of issues, who might be able to help me think through solutions, might be able to help me deal with frustration, etc., etc. So this is the model that I've kind of built for myself to enable me to work through these issues and remain a happy human and not be totally frustrated with the world. I hope this works for you. So stop back and take a twirl on the dance floor with me again sometime in the near future. Okay, bon voyage. No, bon voyage? What the hell's that? Yeah. Anyway. Hi, this is George King, back with my blog, Dancing with Delirium, which is a record of my life with Alzheimer's. Big news this week. The New York Times reported that a special committee advising the Federal Drug Administration was recommending that they do indeed approve the use of the drug Donanemab that is manufactured by Eli Lilly here in the United States, that they approve it for use in this country. And their reasoning was that there is a great need and that the benefits greatly outweigh the risks. Donanemab, which has been developed over the past 35 years by Lilly, the American pharmaceutical company, is very similar to lecanemab, the Japanese drug that I've been taking for the past 6 months or so. And they both slow the progress of Alzheimer's in early stages of the disease. One of the things that's interesting is these are monoclonal drugs which act by getting the immune system of the body to attack the amyloid in the brain, which people believe is one of the causes of Alzheimer's. And what's interesting is they're now saying that once the drug has destroyed the amyloid, perhaps people can stop taking it. And so the risks that might be associated with the drug would obviously be mitigated. So interesting stuff. We're going to post a link to the New York Times story below, and more soon. Hi, this is George King with the blog Dancing with Delirium, an account of my life with Alzheimer's. One of the main reasons that prompted me to start this blog was the fear and stigma that surrounds Alzheimer's and products that play on that fear. I'm talking about those over-the-counter supplements that advertise on TV and the internet. Their promotions imply that any sign of memory loss, which of course everyone will inevitably experience, is the harbinger of a downward spiral to dementia, and only Dr. Bob's snake oil will rectify the problem. A few years ago, when I first became aware of issues with my own short-term memory, I decided to try Prevagen, a product marketed extensively on television that claims to mitigate the effects of memory loss. I took the supplement for a couple of months, but ultimately realized that I couldn't discern any difference in my memory. How could I? Diet, exercise, the weather. There are so many variables that impact memory from one day to the next, and changes are almost imperceptible, and of course, totally subjective. So I asked my neurologist what he thought of Prevagen. He told me he wrote to the manufacturer, and they were unable to supply any evidence to substantiate their claims. Apparently, the company conducted their own clinical trials without any independent certification. I decided to dig a little deeper. In 2017, the Federal Trade Commission in the state of New York took legal action against Quincy Bioscience, which manufactures and markets Prevagen. The case was eventually settled in 2020. AARP reported that the makers of Prevagen are deceiving millions of aging Americans with claims that the supplement can treat age-related memory loss. Then in May this year, Quincy Bioscience was back in court again. This jury concluded that Quincy had not substantiated any claims about Prevagen with reliable scientific evidence. They found some of Quincy's claims about Prevagen to be, quote, materially misleading, and all of them to have a tendency to deceive and constitute fraud. And yet millions of people continue to buy the product. I guess it's cheaper than long-term care insurance. The sad reality is that the company has a huge television advertising budget which is incessantly repeating the same false claims. It reminds me of a lyric I wrote for a show about PR in the 80s. Say it often enough and it's true. Say it loud enough, people will believe you. And here it is. Oh, if anybody wants the rest of this, by the way, just send a note to... No, come on, just stop it.